Hello everybody. It's a nice morning, not too hot. In case you don't know who I am, I'm John Gilbert. I work for MD Insurance, and part of MD Insurance is the LABC warranty brand and also the Premier Guarantee brand. So if you know of those names, hopefully that'll be familiar to you. I was asked to come along and provide a little bit of information about why did we put together the Podium deck guidance. Now, this document here will be available, I believe, in a PDF form later on for you to have a look at. All right. Is it set up? That's a marketing picture for you, so not mine. So, what I'm going to do, I'm going to just bring to your attention the role that a latent defect warranty insurer provides on projects, and because of that, the reason why we put the guidance together. Hope you can see that. I was told that you could, and when I was shown the pictures of the presentation, there was supposed to be other video machines over here, so I hope you can see it, so I'll ad-lib. Just to give you some background, MD Insurance Group was actually founded back in 1997, and the LABC warranty brand was brought in 2007. Collectively, we're the second largest structural warranty latent defects provider, with over 30% of the UK residential sector warranty. Put my glasses on. As I say, we're a latent defects insurer, and we provided 10 and 12 occasionally warranties on building projects. The first 2 years is known as the defects insurance period, where technically the developer should come back to rectify any defects. We may step in, but typically, if I can just say the point right at the bottom, which is probably the most important bit, is I'd say 80% of all claims are water ingress related. But we do get other claims, and I've just mentioned a couple of them. A lot of them are to do with finishes, tolerances, that sort of thing. So that's internal finishes and external appearance. Floor screeds that crack, septic tanks that aren't held down properly and start to rise up. And even on conversions, we can get situations where new floors go in, but some floors are left with timber in there, and the ventilation, the cross ventilation, is accidentally or forgotten about, and the cross ventilation can be blocked, say on one side where they put new car parking or whatever, and consequently everything rots and what have you. So this describes what might happen in the first 2 years, what we cover. And I mentioned that in the first 2 years it's based on defects of the technical manual. And the technical manual that I'm responsible for, and I've forgotten to mention that I'm the technical standards manager, so I actually write the standards. The manual is currently 466 pages in total, covering a wide section of different areas of work, from foundations, basements, ground floors, external walls, roofs, etc. I have to try and point out to you that whilst all work is expected to meet building regulations, where warranty is different is that we provide cover should something happen post building control sign-off, because after building control sign-off, that's it, they're done. And you won't get a redress in theory from building control, and it won't be something covered probably buy your household insurance either. So the picture there just shows a typical cover of the most current version of the LABC version of the technical manual. And I just so something you're familiar with, I've just showed you something from the section 2, which is the basements area. We also then go into the remainder of the 10-year warranty, which is the 3 to 10, which is basically the structural insurance period. And that's where any claims are covered by major damage. At this point, the developer isn't on call to deal with it. It's the warranty. So when we talk about podium decks leaking and everything else, in years 3 to 10, we don't want to be there having to fork out for the expense of getting it right. So what we're trying to do is put these standards together to try and enable our experience from claims to be known right from the start, and hopefully we can all work together to get a defect-free project. You've noticed is that the heading is, why did we produce the guidance? The reason really is that we found that we provide a warranty cover. We require the designs and the finish work to be constructed to a defect-free standard for at least 10 years. And also, the mortgage lenders that provide mortgages on buildings will expect up to a 60-year service life requirement. So there's a lot riding on getting these projects defect-free. Podium decks are obviously, as has been explained by the previous two speakers, commonly used now on developments, but up until just recently, there haven't been really any formal standards to provide best practice. And as we've already seen in the previous slides, they can be in many forms, very large. And for us, there is the risks of water ingress. We have had claims, and I will show you a couple of slides of one particular claim. I'm not going to labour, because we all know that claims happen. And I'm also going to show some positives where work has been done well. But we felt that we needed to provide some guidance, and hopefully the introduction of the podium deck guidance, which was now into the manual, is helpful to you. So what we did, we introduced this guidance to start off with on our website, and then we introduced it into the section 11 of the technical manual. It was based on claims experience, as I said, and we needed to identify the key waterproofing issues, which again has been mentioned before. And so it's mainly these areas here: ponding, lack of falls, collection of surface water, storm surges can often have a problematic effect on things, and I'll show you that in one of the slides in a moment. Ineffective waterproofing systems. Well, that can be related to poor detailing as well as the actual specification of the materials. We have found in the past that some claims have had perfectly good materials used, but they've been used out of scope of the third-party product approval. So that's something else that we need to be careful, and you need to be aware. If you get something that's got a third-party product approval, BBA, BDA, or whatever, read the scope of the document first to make sure you're using it as they tested it. We also needed to for warranty purposes, when we wrote this document, give a definition of what a podium deck is. And my colleagues that have been dealing with podiums for some time and the industry experts all helped us together, and we tried, and we've put down the following definition. So it's an externally weathered elevated platform over an unconditioned, unheated or soundproof space. I prefer something plain English, but that's what everybody agreed upon in the end. We also wanted to identify what isn't a podium. So that's obviously where below the proposed deck, it's conditioned, it's heated or sound. We put this little detail together, but it's remarkably very similar to something that the previous speaker put together on this cross section. But it just tends to try and show where podiums could be. Podium can carry on to be a transfer deck, and it's just to give a description of what we think where a podium is in play. Where it's obviously above a below-ground car parking space, we would be seeking also guidance from BS 8102, which has been mentioned before, to ensure the correct environment is achieved. Right. I changed the heading here to design considerations, because this is where most of the problems start so far as when we are dealing with projects. And it's quite often said, the contractors will say, well, what do you want? We're not here to design it for you. We're just here to identify that we cover these things, we get involved with claims, and from our experience, we feel that a project is better managed if we get enough proper information right at the start, and we can recognise who's involved and who's taking responsibility. It's targeted. The guidance is targeted for the clients, the designers, the architects, engineers, the subcontractors, to provide enough information to us so that we can identify if it represents a standard risk to us. We've set up at our office now a system that when new projects come in for warranty approval, before it even goes to our warranty surveyors, two of our guys will look at basement proposals to identify if it's a standard risk. And I have to say, probably 60 to 75% of the stuff that comes in initially to warranty gets thrown back for lack of information. When I formerly worked in building control for 26 and a half years, it was always put to us, oh, well, you're the last person to come to. We've gone through planning, so you just have to put up with the design we're putting in. And then when I moved 17 years ago to warranty, we then became the last people to be thought of, because it'd gone through planning, it'd gone through building control. Oh, there's a warranty person. Oh, yeah, well, they're giving the warranty, it's fine. You just give out warranties, don't you? And you pay out. Yeah, but we want to manage the risk as well. So we've identified the sort of information that we really want. We really, really want. So, it's the structural performance of the slab, what waterproofing measures are going to be in place, the architectural detailing, management of the surface water, and the drainage. And I'll mention or show some situations where that's either been done poorly or not later on. It needs to be justified. And podium decks have taken on a similar way of looking at to basements in that respect. Still under design considerations, as I say, we've had claims, and we use a term called causation, which is, yes, there's a claim, there's water coming through, but what's caused it? That's the bit that we hang our hats on. What's caused it? And so, and most of the causations relate to these points here. So waterproofing around penetrations, abutments, threshold detailing, again, that's been mentioned before. Insufficient drainage outlets, quite often because of the fact that they were designed right at the very early stage, but they didn't take into account the deck actually deflecting. And even though the slab itself may have been level tested, as soon as the deflection and the waterproofing goes on, you suddenly see low spots. And the last point here, changes in specifications of materials. It's one of our biggest problems. I'm sorry. You know, it's happening all the time. Often, and I probably don't need to say this, but the waterproofing proposal is sought very early on by the architect from a waterproofing supplier, and then once the project proceeds, costs get looked at. I don't know if there's any QSs in the room, but bless you. But you know, suddenly changes in specification occur, and problems can occur which can put at risk, for warranty provision anyway, what happens next. And we really need the justification for any changes in specification so we can offer a warranty sign-off. Again, you've probably just seen something similar. What I'm going to say here is that we put together these details because we have had a couple of situations where these kickers, the turn-ups, have been forgotten about, and where you've ended up with defects in the waterproofing. They've continued on into the floors of the accommodation before. Such a simple thought, but it's something that does happen. Also is that we have had situations where, unlike one of the previous slides, if I can just show you this one, architects and their design wishes, sometimes we've had a situation where they don't want a visible upstand or flashing, and so all they want is that to go up there, but they forget that the lovely clay brickwork in this position here isn't particularly frost resistant or suitable for that area. So sometimes we just have to be aware of the sort of minute changes or design things that could cause a problem later on. Okay, so what claims have we had? Am I all right for time? Oops, right. We do get claims. I'll be quick on this one. This is a development of 2- and 3-story residential buildings constructed over a podium deck with a basement car park underneath. The car park is actually virtually under the whole area of the development. The ceiling of the car park is reinforced concrete, which is great. The claim is penetrating water is causing a nuisance and damage in the car park, as in the stairwells. The volume of penetrating water is worse in heavy rainfall. The causation, that term I used before, a lack of surface water drainage has been provided, and it results in free water being stranded, and it breaches any of the preformed or post-formed penetrations. Similar to some of the details before, attempts have been made to capture the water. What wasn't shown, and I just wanted to say, if you imagine your Porsche or your Audi TT or whatever is parked underneath one of those, you wouldn't like that. Again, some Heath Robinson attempts to capture it and discharge it into some temporary guttering. I'm racing forward now. But, as I say, it's not all bad, and that is being dealt with. So what we then have are some particularly good, well-managed projects. So this example is in Bournemouth, and it consists of a giant basement car park with 3 blocks on top, and one of them being a well-known hotel. If you think colour purple, you might know what I'm talking about. Good detailing, workmanship were in place, although there were still some last-minute solutions, but these were worked through with our surveyor. This is the underside, showing part of the ground floor, and on the right is one of the finished blocks with the landscaping completed. And I promise there are more good jobs, so it's not all doom and gloom. As before mentioned, you might get the slab done correctly, but only a spot of rain will help to identify if there's still some low spots. And in this particular case, they were marked out, and the remediation in this case was to provide additional outlets. And you can see an outlet here that has been correctly installed below the level of the main waterproofing. The next slide, you can see the attenuation system now being put in place, and you can see you can just see some of the flashing details here, but again, it's a secondary thing because there's also another waterproofing that goes through to the inner leaf that was explained before. And that's the finished project. Am I still okay? Oh, she's giving me that sign now. So I'm just going to give you a conclusion. For warranty purposes, please ensure that you provide enough information at an early time. And if there's any learning from experience that we can offer to you, is more consideration must be made for providing additional outlets due to deflection. Make sure the landscaping doesn't interfere with falls. Ensure that on tight sites that damage is avoided when you're using it as temporary storage or loading areas. And that's it. Well done.